and welcome into another episode of Dynasty Boost Podcast. We are right now streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And tomorrow morning, that is Saturday morning at 9 a.m., we will be live on Belly Up TV on the Tiki Live app. As always, it is Double J in the house. The two Justins are here to entertain you. And today we have a great guest with us. That is right, Stephen Morrison. How are you doing, my friend? I just realized I said Stephen when obviously in front of my face it says Steve. So, I apologize if that offended you in any way.
Either or, it doesn't really matter.
But anyway, Steve, how you doing today, my man?
Good. I think I had a productive day. I'm in the process of trying to sell my house, so a lot of packing, cleaning, all that fun stuff.
Okay. Are you moving to a place that's in the area, or are you moving to a different state?
We're moving about an hour out of town, so we got a place with 7 acres on it and a little fishing lake, and pretty excited about it.
That's exciting.
It's a perfect spot for some redraft leagues.
That's the hope if we get everything done in time.
Generally, Steve hosts our auction drafts that are quite a lot of fun as long as you don't draft Adrian Peterson and Ray Rice in 2014, like someone did on this podcast.
What the commissioner gets everything set up.
What was the name of that team? I could think of a couple names, but I think you probably have one too.
Yeah, Better Call Saul was my team name, and it was it was a great season. Yeah, did not finish last place enough to serve beer to everyone the following year.
Well,
here we are. My advice sounds, I'm sure I sound super credible now as we have this podcast.
Well, we are on to better times. And what a great segue. We're talking about guys who were suspended. Now let's talk about a guy who might get suspended. Let's open this up because everybody's got their opinion on it. And I want to hear you guys' opinion on it. Deshaun Watson, obviously going through his hearing phase here. There's just kind of back and forth. Nobody really knows what the sentence is going to be. I call it sentence because, Roger Goodell seems to want to be like the judge, the executioner, the bailiff, everything in the damn court system in the NFL. But, they have to go to a disciplinary officer for this. It's a year. Some people, the PA obviously probably wants to bring it back to like 8 games. The real question is, guys, Fantasy Pros has already dropped him to QB 25. And with all the news coming out, I see it dropping a little bit more. Do you take the shot on him if he is there that late in the draft? I'm going to start off with you first, Steve. Tell me, what are your opinions on this Watson situation, and how does it figure into your strategy?
I have him. I think I was buying him before last year, and I was trying to get that discount. And even in the point of trying to sell him now, I don't want to just give him away for a 2. Because I know Justin's told me, he goes, every time he plays and he gets a season in, he's a top 5 quarterback. So that's his advice, and I think that's what I would do. I would say hold him and just stay through it and don't sell low.
Yeah, I'd continue to buy. I mean, I've asked Steve. I've tried buying him from him where he has him. I have him just about everywhere. And the places I don't have him, it's because I did a startup this off season, and he moved way back up in the rankings for obvious reasons. Like Steve said, he finishes top 5 every season. The goal of, the Dynasty Nerds I listen to a lot, and Rich Dotson always says the thing. He's like, you got to get a staple. You got to do it. And Watson's there. You don't have to love the player, but you play to win the game, as Herm Edwards would say. Yeah. And in terms of suspension, I mean, the NFL's posturing on this has really been terrible from day one. I mean, like, I remember last year when they were interviewing these women, the women were like, the NFL was like really not very nice to us. And I'm not saying whether the NFL is right or wrong, but I'm just saying on all the posturing, I keep reading the 1-year suspension, and it seems more like something that they feel like their fans want to hear, but they know darn well they have no backing to do based on the suspensions they've given to the owners. In the CBA, it clearly says we hold the owners to a higher standard. But Robert Kraft didn't get a single game suspension when he allegedly did the same thing, and there was video proof of that. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, thing that's going on right now, because at the end of the day, you know, the evidence is kind of all scattered around. And like you said, like there's been other cases where less punishment has been dished out for sometimes even far worse crimes. So at this point, it's kind of, there's a lot of people that want this to happen out in the social media community. And obviously, you know, what he did or what he didn't do, it's not commendable. It's something that you know, you don't want to just give him a slap on the wrist, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a little bit difficult to kind of give him the full year suspension or the indefinite suspension that everybody's talking about. You know,
and you know what's even more weird about that, and I could be wrong, and I'm not condoning any of these actions. You know,
yeah,
I think we should
exactly.
all hold ourselves to a higher standard, but a lot of people compare it to the Ben Roethlisberger case, and I kind of disagree with that take, strictly because what that girl alleged is that Roethlisberger like forced himself on her, and that was like a real issue. I mean, not that this isn't a real issue, but that seems far more physical and like I don't, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, the Watson thing, the stories do not sound great. And I don't condone any of that, but the Roethlisberger thing sounds like it was a step further than the kind of way this has been pursued, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, honestly, as far as the strategy goes, I'm just going to move on to that. I agree. I'm holding on to him. I don't care what's coming my way, because a lot of people like to be jokesters and they want to say, oh, a third and a fourth, he's not going to play this year. Like, I don't care. Dude's 26 years old. 26 years old, and like you said, Justin, he's finished top 5 the past 3 years that he's played. Like, no, I'm not going to give you for a third and a fourth round pick. That is baloney. And anybody who's saying we want to just offload him real quick, yeah, I'll offload him for you. Here, second round pick, just because I feel nice.
I'd give you. I've made offers of one. I'll even overpay at this point. I'll still give 2 ones, knowing damn well that he could very well sit out this season. But
Yeah.
It's like Steve and I were talking this morning. It's like when that position is set in Superflex, you can literally draft any player you want in drafts. I mean, you don't have to worry about value on your board. You could trade down, or you can take the best player available.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is a quarterback, because if you get another quarterback, who cares? You could have 3 or 4 top tier quarterbacks, and those are the easiest pieces to sell because of the scarcity.
Very well. Yeah. I mean, and here's something else to think about, you know, stuff like, you know, best ball and stuff like that, where if you get a certain amount of rounds and, you know, you're looking at maybe like, you know, I've got a really good quarterback, I've got somebody who's maybe a suspect, and if he doesn't get the full year suspension, there's somebody, you know, he goes in like the 20th round or something like that.
I was going to bring that up, and I forgot to, I'm happy you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I literally did a couple drafts today where it was like, okay, I'm going to purposefully take like, you know, Zach Wilson in the 12th, and then I'll take the upside of Watson in the 20th, and that'll if that happens, then you know you take Brissett with the final pick, just so you have a guy during Wilson's bye week. But
yeah,
I mean, you can get a ridiculously good lineup. I think I have like Cortland Sutton, Terry McLaurin, and Devontae Adams as my 3 receivers.
Yeah,
and then I have like Saquon, I think, and someone else.
Nice. What's Watson's outlook with the Browns, just out of curiosity? I don't know where you guys stand on that. I don't know if I like it as much as Houston, but he's got some nice pieces. I just don't know what the scheme allowing them being run heavy, but he'll have a better offensive line than he's had in the past. And
the thing people don't talk about enough is like the defense. Like the defense is going to create turnovers. I like their defense quite a bit. They have a ridiculously good defensive line. So there's going to be plenty of scoring opportunities because I think they're going to have the ball more often than not. And I think, you know, he's finished top 5 every season. And based on his current cost, even if he finishes top 10, when you trade for him, it's still worth it, in my opinion. So his outlook, I think, is top 10 or better. I still project him to finish top 5. And I also think that Nick Chubb is a value instead of Kareem Hunt, because Nick Chubb is going to get all those goal line work. So you could easily get both for cheap, because I've seen Nick Chubb go in like the 4th or 5th round lately of startups.
Yeah. And I actually posted this out on the Twitter world. What's the difference? Everybody's talking about, you know, how Nick Chubb is not a value anymore because Deshaun Watson's out for right now, and he's not even out. But, you know, hypothetically, what's the difference here? What's the real difference between Nick Chubb's situation last year with a broken down Baker Mayfield and this year with a Jacoby Brissett? There's not really a difference.
Well, the difference is they're going to use him more. Like they want Baker Mayfield to be a thing. They wanted him to be a thing. So I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody, these are the things that we get ourselves into as a community, where we start backing ourselves into a wall and start going, okay, yeah, I agree with him. Nick Chubb is not a value anymore. When you really think about it, what is the real difference between a Jacoby Brissett offense and a broken down Baker Mayfield offense? It's really nothing. I mean, Baker Mayfield couldn't throw the ball last year. He couldn't do much of anything, and Nick Chubb still thrived. He still feasted. I had Adam from FF Faceoff ask me, or he's like, PPR wise. I'm like, yeah, PPR wise, but last year PPR wise, he was still an RB1. So that shows, just like Derrick Henry, if you're a really good rusher and you can break tackles, you can still be an efficient guy in PPR. So, I mean, that's another thing. And to answer your question, Steve, with Watson, I look at the offense being almost identical. Maybe it's a downgraded version of what Houston was in some areas. I mean, obviously, Donovan Peoples-Jones is not Will Fuller, and Amari Cooper is close to, but it's really not DeAndre Hopkins at his peak. Mm-hmm. But, he has a lot of the same weapons that he had there. And then, you throw in David Bell, who I actually really like getting in drafts right now.
He's finally going to have an offensive line.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I see. But remember, he's a holder of the ball too, so a lot of those sacks are more on him than the offensive line at the same time.
Yeah, but he'll move around. One thing I did want to bring up as we talk about this offense, I recently made a trade for him where we got plus for Jonathan Taylor, and in that trade was Nick Chubb. And on paper, it looks like a god awful trade, but when you look in terms of efficiency, him and Jonathan Taylor both have the same yards per carry. And Jonathan Taylor just outperformed him last year in terms of touchdowns. So if you want a dark horse candidate to finish as the RB1 should Watson miss the year, it's hands down Nick Chubb.
I'll take any running back behind the Bill Callahan offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He was actually last year my low-key number one RB selection, and he ended up finishing RB8. But, I mean, I agree. He's bound for a big year. A lot of people don't realize he hasn't been getting like the workload that he should be getting. He's been getting around 212 in touches for like the past couple years. So, obviously if they uptick and they really like settle in on him being the guy and really use that contract that he just got and say, all right, we're going to really like run the tires dry on you, he could be in for a huge season.
We'll have to talk about this more on the AFC North, but it is funny how a guy like Nick Chubb, who has this track record, goes in the fourth round, and then we have Javonte Williams competing for carries with Melvin Gordon going at like the top of the second. Like, that's just how you lose.
Not as good of an offensive line.
Yeah.
And a quarterback that's probably going to throw more because that's what he said he wants. So
and ideally a worse situation as far as having a backup running back take your carries, because Gordon is more seen as like a guy who is very identical to Javonte Williams, where Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are very much seen as like Chubb is the carrying back and Kareem Hunt is the target back. So, obviously there's something where, like you said, we're kind of maybe overvaluing Javonte Williams and undervaluing Nick Chubb. But guys, I want to move into a next topic real quick. Terry McLaurin getting his contract. Does this solidify that Terry McLaurin can be a wide receiver one this year for you guys? I'll go to you first.
Quarterback upgrade.
Yeah, I'm with. Yeah, it's. He's been my dark horse all season. I wrote about a piece about him at Prediction Strike. He's like under $1 on Prediction Strike, and I write for them, and it's a bargain. Look at the quarterbacks the dude's had. I don't want to besmirch the name of Dwayne Haskins, but in terms of NFL production, it just wasn't there. Alex Smith was a shell of himself when he was there, and he's put up numbers with any cast of guys. I mean, let's be honest. Taylor Heineke can run the ball, but that dude can't throw. Like I think I might be able to throw as well as Heineke. He can run way better.
Probably an exaggeration.
Did you watch him throw last year?
I've watched you throw.
That might be true, but we.
Oh,
hey, I can throw a 15-yard pass on a rope. Okay.
Okay, Uncle Rico, right over the mountain.
All right, this is a one-time guest appearance, I guess.
I might switch co-hosts at this point. No, but I agree with you guys. I think that not a lot of people are making too much out of this. And this is another thing. We're getting behind this whole idea that Carson Wentz sucks. The dude threw 27 touchdowns last year. He doesn't suck at all.
He was a scapegoat in that situation, and I don't know what caused the Colts to think that Matt Ryan's going to be better than Wentz, but I'm interested to see. The only thing that scares me is the offensive line holding up for him, because we saw what he was with the Eagles when their offensive line wasn't good. But right. I think that the weapons that they have in Washington is certainly good enough that I think that'll make a lot of a difference for Wentz, and I'm hopeful for him. And I know on the NFC episode you guys posted, I think Justin's team to win that division is Washington. So, and I don't think that's far fetched by any means.
It's a lot more bettable than my Jacksonville prediction.
Yeah, yeah, that is.
Well, I mean, you make a lot more money on the Jacksonville prediction. That's
you make a lot more than that, yeah.
But anyways, one last thing I wanted to put in there is that Tyler Heineke was one of the worst quarterbacks as far as throwing the deep ball, and Terry McLaurin was one of the. He had a lot of deep ball attempts, coming his way. It's just Heineke could not make it happen as far as completion percentage wise. Whereas, the flip side of that is, Carson Wentz comes in, he's bringing his top 5 completion percentage on the deep ball in. And, I'm like, yeah, let's go all day long. I'll take Scary Terry getting a 40-yard reception every 2 games or so for a TD. Let's fucking go on that one.
I mean, and if we're being honest, not only is Terry a value, but so is Dotson. I mean,
yeah,
both of those guys there, I'll take either one of them. Like, I obviously think Terry McLaurin could sneak into the, I don't think he's going to finish as like top 10, but I think he could finish like 11 or 12 for his upside for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think he could finish top 10. I mean, all he's really missing at this point is a little bit of touchdowns. He needs just to get into that double-digit touchdown range, and then we're really starting to talk about maybe him having kind of like a Mike Evans type season.
I understand that. It's not so much the talent I worry about; it's the Rivera play calling. I think. I think it's going to cap his touchdown upside, like you said, because like once they get a lead, they're going to want to run the ball. They have 3 competent running backs. I think that is going to be a focal point of the offense, but it doesn't matter. Like where he's being drafted right now is an extreme value to me still.
So I think maybe we're just looking at this as hopefully early in the games before they have a lead, he doesn't miss as many opportunities as he did with Heineke to make a big play or big splash, which I can actually see this year with Wentz at quarterback. I also agree with you. Dotson is a good play, and I mean he's being kind of drafted as one of the last guys for the receivers in the rookie class. Another guy is maybe even Curtis Samuel. I mean, Curtis Samuel's kind of been left for dead from the fantasy community because of all the injury history that he's had. But, I mean, who knows? He could be a nice slot piece this year. But, guys, we're not here to talk about the NFC East. We're here to talk about the NFC South. Let's go. All right, so first off, I'm going to just introduce everything into this. It's the Atlanta Falcons. We had major offseason additions as far as fantasy goes. Marcus Mariota, Brian Edwards, Ferkser, obviously Drake London is the big one. Tyler Algier, we have Ritter, and then a couple other rookies, Arnold Epikite and Troy Anderson, who was a linebacker. But so with this offense, what pieces do you want, and in what formats are you okay with having these guys in? I'll start with Steve first.
I'm a pretty big Mariota fan, and I don't know why exactly it didn't work out in Tennessee, but he looked pretty good in the times he got to play with the Raiders, and I'm interested to see. I think that with the Tennessee staff coming in that's kind of familiar with him there, I think they understand his strengths and weaknesses. They're building a basketball team. They've got a couple guys he can just float a ball to that they can go get. I'm a big Brian Edwards guy, and it didn't work out in Oakland either. Really interested to see, maybe Mariota was pulling some strings there to say, hey, you got to go get this guy. He's ready. But I think it's Mariota's show this year, and I think if it works out, I think he's going to keep it. If it doesn't work out, I think they make the switch to Ritter fairly quickly. I'm not a huge Ritter guy myself, but I mean, I'm not a pro, or I could be wrong. I don't see the accuracy there, and I just don't see accuracy being something that gets a lot better when the mechanics. I mean, that was the big thing with him, his mechanics were so good, and everyone's like, "Oh man, have you seen him? Like, yeah, his mechanics are good, and he's still missing so much." Like, that's just kind of a red flag to me. He's athletic, but his running's not his game. Algiers is interesting. I don't know if he's an every down back, but I certainly think he could play a third down role at some point. I think that's something. I think he's a guy I would certainly take in the third or fourth round, wherever you're getting him, and just hold on to him, because I mean that running back room is pretty much pudding right now. It's hard to tell what's going to happen. London, I was surprised he was the first wide receiver to go off the board, but he could be
London's
great.
A stud. London's a stud.
And he could be. We haven't seen that frame of wide receiver work very much. It doesn't seem like in the NFL. Coming out of the draft, like some of the other guys, like a lot of times it seems like it's separation guys, and Drake either can't separate or the quarterback couldn't get him separated. But he's great and contested.
One guy that sold me on him was actually Parsons over at Football Guys. He actually, on a per game basis, was an absolute freak. It's really been about health for London more so than production.
Yeah, but you remember he was playing against too.
Yeah,
he's not playing against the best defensive secondaries in the nation.
Pretty soon it'll be Big Ten. That's right.
Switching over.
As far as this team, I want really nothing to do with this except for in best ball. A name that's not on here, we'll see pop up here probably in a month or two, is I think Jimmy Garoppolo will be an off-season addition. Absolutely. There is nothing I see on this roster. I mean, let's just sit back and think about it for a second, right? Like Jimmy Garoppolo has won games, right? The locker room loves him in San Francisco by all measures. If you're a rebuilding team, Ritter is just not the answer. I haven't loved anything I've seen from him on paper. And Mariota got hurt he played in 2 games last year and got hurt in both games. He's like just a walking injury report. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo makes a lot of sense for this team to see what they could get, to see what he has. You pair him with Drake London. You got Kyle Pitts. There's some sneaky upside to this offense, and I think it's definitely they're definitely rebuilding. But you give Jimmy Garoppolo a year and see if he can make pie out of the raw ingredients and see what you got there for a year, because you know that San Francisco is going to eat most of his salary if they're going to try and facilitate a trade anyways. And it makes a lot of sense for Atlanta to be calling, and that's why you don't hear. And I'm also convinced, Conspiracy Justin, that's part of the reason you don't hear them involved in any of these trade talks for Baker Mayfield as well.
Yeah, I think the only thing I have that I would go against Jimmy G would be the mold of what they've taken and signed this offseason with Mariota and Ritter. They're very similar type of guys where they're run first, or not run first, but they can scramble and make plays. Yeah. And that's not Jimmy's game. So that's the only thing I see that I would really kind of question you on. But
so they're going to trade for Jalen Hurts next season, is what you're telling me.
No, they're going to trade for Baker Mayfield this season.
Yeah. I mean, I could see this being where Baker ends up. And in all honesty,
I really think Baker's going to Carolina.
And that's my other team too. I mean, or Seattle. Seattle's not going to go forward with the 2 they have.
Yeah. They may tell you that they like Geno Smith, but we all know the truth.
Just like Atlanta might tell Steve that Marcus Mariota is their guy, but
we all know the truth. We all know that they are going for Bryce Young next year.
That's my thoughts. They're rebuilding. They don't want to pay somebody.
Yeah. And just to touch on the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, because, Steve, I don't know if you know this. I mean, you're a listener, so you probably do. I'm a 49ers fan. I would love it for them to trade him to the Falcons. You know why? Because then the whole illusion of Jimmy G winning all these games will finally be gone.
I mean, he's won everywhere he's been, though. I mean, let's just put that out there.
Oh, yeah. Where's he been? Oh, he's been under the
New
Bill
England.
Belichick system, and he's been under Kyle Shanahan's system.
Now, how's that?
What does that mean? What does that mean? He can be covered up by the run game and the defense. That's
not to be fair. That Bill Belichick system, how has that worked out the last couple of years? Last time I saw them, they got hung. They got a 50 burger hung up on him.
And he was only there for 2 games, and he pussied out the second game, didn't you?
Well, you know,
or the third game. Didn't you hear Martellus Bennett?
he was winding up that arm. He was just getting ready.
He was winding up for that big payday that he ended up getting. That's what he was winding up for.
The best trade we ever did was with Steve and I. Steve really loved. So like 3 years ago, Steve loved him some Jimmy G. And I was like, we have an offer of like LaShawn McCoy and Josh Allen for Garoppolo. And he's like, I don't know, man. And it was just like, it was a discussion. And then he's like, all right, well, I trust you. Let's do it. And that really like catapulted our rebuild. We took a terrible team one time to the championship.
No offense, but Josh Allen, after his rookie year, I think everybody was thinking, "Yeah, this isn't the guy."
Well, I think that worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah. Trust Justin's gut. That's what I've learned.
Sometimes, no, it's what my biggest advice is always have a co-manager because it actually does help you keep things in perspective.
It's nice to have a voice to argue with you.
Nice. I can tell that you guys are trying to get over to each other's house every single week for football. And not to watch it, to argue fantasy. I love it.
Oh, yeah. It's a daily phone call.
All right. So we're going to move on to the next one. It's good old Carolina. And I guess the biggest question is CMC still worth a top 5 pick in both your guys' minds? This year, I actually liked what they did on the O-line. That O-line was kind of pitiful last year. They went out and they got 2 guys from run-centric offenses, and they stuck them in there. Bradley Bozeman is going to be the center. You got Austin Corbett's going to be taking up one of the guard spots. Then you got, Donta Foreman. I don't think a lot of people were really impressed by Chuba Hubbard last year, which is why they went out and they got somebody who did impress in his backup role, in Donta Foreman. When it all comes down to it, last year, one of the major problems with Christian McCaffrey was, this offensive line could get no push. I mean, he had 3 red zone carries and he had -1 yards. So that kind of just tells you everything you need to know about that. They obviously go out and get Ike Ekwonu, who's going to be their new blindside tackle. Matt Corral's another interesting name to think about, especially with Sam Darnold being the head of that room. I mean, we could easily see by the end of training camp, Matt Corral is in that slot as the starting QB. He went out and got Cade Mays, who can be another swing tackle. So that was pretty much it for the offensive side. Brandon Smith, Kalen Barnes. How are you guys feeling? 1 about CMC, 2 about DJ Moore, and 3 about this weird mess that they call a quarterback room in Carolina. I'll start it out with Justin this time.
Yeah, so going back to the Jonathan Taylor argument last week, I actually thought that CMC was a great value, but I've kind of reconsidered it. It just seems like if he's going to be the CMC of old, he's going to need the passing work and he's going to need the volume. And I think we're already getting signals from Carolina they want to cut down his workload a little bit. And I just feel like after those 2 ridiculous seasons he's had, I think we've seen the best of CMC regardless of age.
He's in the best shape of his life,
though. Everyone's in the best shape. I'm actually in the best shape of my life of 2022. So I just feel like CMC's actually overvalued still a little bit based on the injury history we've been seeing it pile up here. And again, if you're in a super flex league and you're picking 10 through 12, I'm probably trading down because that tells you most of the top tier quarterbacks are gone. And then you're going to start seeing guys like CMC, Najee Harris go. Maybe you can get Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, but I highly doubt it. So I just feel like CMC is kind of a fool's errand to kind of chase right now.
I like that. Steve, what do you think about this whole mess that we call Carolina?
I think Matt Corral, I believe, was my quarterback tooth from scouting this class. He's got quick twitch. I mean, as fast as he can get that ball out with velocity, I think that there's a place for him in the NFL. Is it going to be year one? I'm not sure, but I think that he does have tools. He makes some great plays. He's pretty mobile. We don't really think about that for him, but he can move around that pocket really well, and he can beat you with his legs if he really wants to, but it's not his game. They have weapons there. I don't think that's an issue. Like you said, the offensive line getting better certainly can't hurt a quarterback. I think we've seen what Darnold is, and I argued for a long time he's super young. He entered the NFL at like 20 years old. And I go, well, it's you can keep having that argument, but eventually he has to find success. And at some point you have to point the finger and not the thumb and not the finger. And I just see a situation where Corral's going to play this year, but I just don't know that the coach is going to make it long enough to make a difference for him. I think this is his last year if they don't win anything.
One thing I want to point out, you asked about DJ Moore, and I've often compared DJ Moore to CD Lamb. I think they're both ridiculously overpriced. DJ Moore has finished inside the top 24 at the position 3 times. On a points per game finish, he's finished inside the top 24 1 time. I think DJ Moore is highly overpriced and ridiculously overvalued.
DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin have similar situations if you look at their statistics.
That's it. That's the comparison, not CD Lamb. Because CD Lamb has a quarterback, an elite quarterback. Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore have never had an elite quarterback to get them more touchdown, like kind of, get them into the red zone, get them into the end zone. So
the reason why I compare them, though, the reason why I compare them is just their finishes are like identical. But yeah.
I mean, I understand that. I'm just saying, like, from a perspective of taking it out of the context of the situation, both those guys, CD Lamb has really no excuses anymore. If he can't do it this year, he's probably never going to really do it.
I guess
DJ Moore still can get an elite quarterback and hopefully turn his entire career around.
And my only argument against that, though, would be that you look at a guy like Hopkins, and I know that's ridiculous to compare Hopkins. Like Hopkins did it without anyone. Larry Fitzgerald went and did it without anyone.
Kurt Warner.
Yeah, but Larry Fitzgerald
had a lot of people to throw.
Larry Fitzgerald was doing it. But Larry Fitzgerald was also doing it without Carson Palmer and without.
But he also didn't have 10 touchdown seasons every year. I mean, doesn't. He just because he had 1,000 yards, DJ Moore has 1,000 yards every year and 4 touchdowns. That's his thing. But
if you look at, I actually want to look at this now.
Look at the carousel that he's had around him. What is it? Darnold, PJ Walker, Cam Newton had a return. This is
Cam Newton or in the shell of Cam Newton. And
I mean, dude, you're looking at DJ Moore, with the exception of 1 year, was a top 24 receiver for 12 seasons.
But look up his raw statistics. Like, he's always been, raw statistic wise, he's always been one of the elite receivers. 1,000 yards for what? Is it like his 4th year, or is it his 5th year in?
Hold on. I mean, his 2nd year in, he was the wide receiver 2 overall. And let's see who his quarterback was.
That was Cam Newton that year, right?
For Larry Fitzgerald? Sorry, I'm talking about Larry Fitzgerald.
We're talking about Larry Fitzgerald. The 2nd year, I think that was probably Palmer. No, maybe Warner.
Jake. The guy that the Houston wanted to hire as their head coach?
It was actually Kurt Warner. So
Kurt Warner,
okay, yeah. So you're wrong.
All right. Well, anyways, I'm not always wrong, but when I do, I like to be proven wrong on live stream.
Hey, at least you fact checked yourself.
There you go. So
I just think that I don't like the quarterback argument. I've seen receivers do well with or without good quarterbacks. I feel like a great receiver can make a quarterback look a lot better than they are.
But the argument here is that he's a great receiver. He just doesn't have anybody to get him the ball in the end zone. It's the same argument with Terry McLaurin. You know, like
McLaurin's like had the flashes, and McLaurin's been a top 24 receiver pretty consistently. Other than
DJ's
last year,
was it his rookie year or second year? He was super good. Like I
Yeah,
feel like he had some extra touchdowns in there, and I thought he was a wide receiver one his first or second year in the league, because he was one of those guys that vaulted to overall top wide receiver one.
He has 2 seasons inside the top 24. His highest finish was, or he has 3 finishes in the top 24. His highest season on a points per game basis was wide receiver 19, and that was in 2020.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I trust the statistics. I trust that this guy wouldn't be getting like every year in the league that he's been there 3 or 4.
He's been there 4 years. Yeah.
Sorry. He's been in 4 years, or is this his 4th year?
This will be his.
I think was his rookie.
This will be his 4th year. Okay.
This will be his 5th year.
5th year. Okay.
Yeah.
So every year he's been in the league, he's been getting 1,000 yards. I mean, I trust that over, you know, some schlub that's, you know, almost like CeeDee Lamb. You know what I mean? I kind of trust that a little bit more at the price than I do CeeDee Lamb, because we haven't really seen CeeDee Lamb fully produce at his highest level. But, you know, you've seen DJ Moore produce year in and year out at a high level. He just kind of needs some help.
Yeah, maybe. I guess at the end of the day, let me phrase it to you this way. Would you
rather... like if DJ Moore had Aaron Rodgers there, would you say DJ Moore is in your top 12 of wide receivers?
I don't do that.
Like talent-wise, DJ Moore with Aaron Rodgers, would that vault him over?
I don't. Not for me, no.
No,
it would for me. I would buy at cost right now.
I can't do that. I can't justify that, knowing what I know with a guy like CeeDee Lamb who's tied to Dak, knowing that I just don't buy the fact that elite quarterbacks make receivers inherently good. Like I buy the fact that I think the guy that's going right next to DJ Moore is Elijah Moore, and give me Elijah Moore every freaking day over DJ Moore, because I think Elijah Moore has the talent. And I just think DJ Moore is a great wide receiver 2 for you. I think Elijah Moore has the upside of a wide receiver 1 for you.
All right, so hold on one second. I'm gonna try and pull up some good stuff right here. So here's something for you. Mike Evans is a guy who kind of dealt with a little bit of a streak where he wasn't getting 10 touchdowns for about 3 or 4 years. When Tom Brady came into town, he's had his 2 best years touchdown-wise. That's what I'm saying. The effect of an elite quarterback, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're already an elite receiver, it just pushes you over into a better range, a better tier. You know, all I'm saying with DJ Moore,
but Mike Evans has been Mike Evans has been in the top 10 every year but one since 2016, and he was the wide receiver 1 in 2016.
Okay. We're going to get nowhere with this argument. We're going to spend the entire time on this one. But anyways, guys, so just give me, do you guys think there's anybody here at the position they're in ADP that's worth a try for the Panthers?
Yeah, I actually do. A guy that I will buy low on is not DJ Moore, but his counterpart.
Robbie Anderson?
Not Robbie Anderson.
Oh, no way. You're going to talk Terrace Marshall Jr.?
Absolutely. Terrace Marshall Jr. has a skill set, had a rough rookie season. He's essentially free. I'd rather take the bet on a Terrace Marshall. I bet you he's worth like a 4th or 5th round pick.
That guy couldn't get separation.
That dude was a rookie. That dude was a rookie last season, though.
Yeah, so was Jamar Chase and so was
Yeah, not everyone's Jamar
Devonta
Chase.
Smith.
I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. If I could get Jamar Chase for a 5th round rookie pick, I'd do it all day.
The passion that the fantasy community had for Marshall last year, it's hilarious now, because he did absolutely nothing, and everybody was just like, "Oh yeah, draft him in your 2nd round." Get the fuck
I'd give him another year if I have him. I don't think I'm trying to let him go. I'm certainly not cutting him. But
no,
if somebody offers you a 2nd and you get cost back, sure, that's fine. But yeah. I think that you can hold on to him, because I don't know that Robbie Anderson's really that happy right now.
Yeah, I mean,
he's happy in Carolina, though. To be fair,
he's making money.
Yeah, that's true. That does help.
Things that you shouldn't say yourself at your job. I'm making money.
I'm making money. He's making more money than he ever would have made in New York. That's for sure. Let's move on to the Saints. I put offseason additions. I put Jameis because that's kind of, keeping their quarterback is a big one. You get Jarvis Landry, a good slot receiver. Tyrann Mathieu to kind of shape up that defense. On the draft additions, you get somebody to Trevor Penning. I don't know. He almost seems more like a guard to me, but I know they're going to try and put him in where Armstead was. Then you got Olave. I put Abram Smith, even though he was an undrafted rookie, just because of the Kamara thing going on right now. And then we got the two Jacksons, Jordan and DeMarco. How are you guys feeling about the Saints? They kind of look like they were dead in the water early in the offseason. Then they kind of just, slowly, piece by piece, put themselves back together and put themselves kind of into a contender spot. Michael Thomas comes back. They've got receivers. They've got Olave now that can stretch the field. Landry and Thomas can kind of play the possession slot receiver roles. Jameis, notorious bomber. Also somebody who kind of cut back on the interceptions surprisingly last year. I know Justin's kind of down on him because of the Dennis Allen thing, but Pete Carmichael is still the offensive coordinator there, so you still have that Sean Payton influence. So Steve, I'll throw this to you real quick. Who are you looking at, especially at the value position that you can get from the Saints and kind of feel good about taking them?
I think Jameis Winston's certainly a value. The games we saw him last year, he looked comfortable, he looked good. It's hard to say upgrade from Breeze, but they could do certain things on offense that just seemed more normal because it wasn't just check down here, check down there, which hurts Kamara because he's not catching 100 a year. But we didn't even see him with Michael Thomas hardly, did we? I don't think Thomas played at all last year, right?
No, he played a couple games last year.
He didn't play at all last season.
Did he not play at all last year?
No, it's been because last season he got surgery in mid to late August, 2 days after Steve traded for him, and what I thought was a good trade. Okay. I thought it was a good trade at the time. It's just the way fantasy happens.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I love me some Michael Thomas.
Previous year. Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested to see Winston. The wide receivers I'm interested to see shake out because they're all kind of a slot build. So, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, kind of a redundant role, but I think Michael Thomas is certainly able to do more. And that might have just been because of what Breeze's strengths were. They just matched him up where they could get him the ball and get the mismatches where they could, which is great. Olave, I think, is a nice add. I think I've heard people say he's wide receiver 1 because he's running against nobodies and catching balls that I would catch. And don't say anything to that, Justin. You've seen me catch. And I think he's a nice add. I don't think he's going to hurt the offense at all. Abram Smith, I thought he looked really good at Baylor. I was kind of surprised he wasn't drafted. I thought he fell in behind a good offensive line into a good situation. I don't think him and Kamara are quite the same skill set, so I could see him kind of being a between the tackles guy, a nice slasher. I've been trying to pick him up where I can. I really like that name. Another one I was just looking at was the Divina Zigbo got signed there. And being Nebraska fans, me and Justin are pretty familiar with him. I thought he looked good in Jacksonville when he got chances. So I think Ozigbo is another guy that could certainly fill into a role. Is Mark Ingram still in Saints too? Or
he's still there.
Okay.
He's supposed to be the guy if Kamara gets a big suspension.
Yeah, and that's certainly a name I wouldn't be upset at rostering at this point right now either. He's got a chance, but you might say his best days are certainly behind him. But he could be a between the tackles banger. We've seen the Saints make that guy a running back 2 before.
Yeah. It's generally the guys you don't think about though. So you could look into the younger guys. I think Kamara is going to be the guy that I want in this offense. I think I think he's a huge value in best ball drafts right now because of the uncertainty. So I think I saw someone comment the other day on Twitter, why would you draft this time of year? You don't know this, and that. It's you draft at different points in the season because you can get certain leverage. You can get a guy like Kamara now, and if his suspension is only 2 games, then he's a huge value to you, right? Mm-hmm. But in terms of Jameis Winston, I do think he is a value, but I think there's a misconception of what Jameis Winston is and what type of value it is, right? Jameis Winston only has one season in the top 12 in a points per game basis and a positional finish, and that was in 2019 when he threw all those interceptions. So he's certainly a value. I think he's a good player. I just, I consider a value being a rock solid RB2. Usually finishes in the 14 to 18 range. He only has three finishes outside of that. So I definitely like him this season, but I also believe that if he gets off to a hot start, I am not keeping that hot potato. I want to unload that thing as fast as I can during the season.
No, that's fair enough. One thing I really liked about Jameis last year, and Steve, you were talking about it, how Kamara kind of gets a little bit of a cutback because Jameis likes to go downfield. He actually checked it down quite a bit last year. Jameis and Kamara Kamara was averaging about 5 targets a game with Jameis. So it really wasn't that bad of an issue for him to just check it down. I think the Sean Payton system kind of started to make him think a little bit more about how to be a veteran and how to really see the field. And that can be dangerous with an arm like that, because he's really got the ability to beam it all the way downfield. We saw it last year. We saw it. He made Deontay Hardy look good for best ball for a couple weeks. You know what I mean? He'd get one pass, 80-yard touchdown. He could still do it. So, yeah. I mean, and another thing, I like Abram Smith coming out. I was a huge Abram Smith mark coming out. I like this tape, like you said, at Baylor. I think he stands up a little bit too much, which will probably get him cracked in the NFL. But, yeah, I mean, there's value in a lot of these guys. Jarvis Landry has some value to him. Michael Thomas, whether he decides to come out and play for the team, would have value to him.
I think he's the most crucial piece to this team, in all honesty. I think if Michael Thomas plays, that will make Winston better. But, Winston's best days are when Mike Evans was on the field. So he needs a top-tier receiver like a Mike Evans to make him a more competent quarterback, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, he could totally find it with, Olave or, even a Jarvis Landry. You just need somebody. I just remember last year when Michael Thomas was coming back and he talked about how Jameis Winston couldn't throw a slant to save his life. And I was just like, dude, you're throwing your quarterback under the bus like that? What are you doing? So I don't know what Michael Thomas's game is at this point, whether he's just trying to pull his card so he can try and find a way out or what. But I mean, at this point, man, I think you got to get back on the field. You got to show your value because nobody's going to want you, especially at that contract. He's still in that contract where I think he's getting paid like $20 million a year. It's like, what the fuck? But anyways,
what about Marquez Callaway?
See, I like Callaway.
I liked Callaway last year, yeah.
I still like him this year. I mean, he actually is the only guy. Him and Thomas have a similar build. Like, if you want to talk about size, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think Callaway is more of a possession type, tall receiver, and still figures to have a role in this offense.
6'2", 204.
Yeah. You guys like Troutman?
I used to.
I have, but yeah, tight ends just take time, and by the time you quit on him, that's probably when he's going to start hitting. But I mean, there just wasn't anything there last year. But with the quarterbacks they were cycling through, we could probably chalk it up to some of that too.
Yeah, I like that he's he's a run blocking tight end first, so at least he'll see the field for 3 downs.
How many games?
He had that one game where he exploded, and then obviously he went down for injury.
Before we move on to the next team, how many games does Taysom Hill start at quarterback?
None.
From acquiring him as a tight end position, I hope he starts at least 2. Because I'll take all those passing touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't know with Jameis there. I don't know that they're gonna. I think that might be kind of dead in the water.
You think so? But again, I mean,
I think that's a goal line package right there. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I think that could be.
Just for perspective, the head coach of this team did have Derek Carr as quarterback and won 1 football game. So my expectations for this team are super low.
Fair enough.
We'll see.
Well, like I said, I think there's definitely some goal line packages that he could definitely run. I mean, they have a lot. They pay a lot of money to this guy on a year-to-year basis. I know they can cut the fat anytime they want, but they have him there for a reason, and I think it's probably to be their goal line back. So,
yeah, as I think he can be an offensive weapon, and I think you'll see some wildcat stuff. I just don't think you're going to take Jameis off the field at the 50-yard line to do a Taysom Hill run type of thing. We'll see what happens. I don't think that they didn't do that a whole lot when Jameis played last year, did they?
No. He was mostly coming in right around like when they needed to score a touchdown or, obviously third down conversion, 3rd and 1 type situation where it was obvious what they were going to do, but stop Taysom Hill because he's built like a tank.
Right.
For the record, you mentioned offensive weapon. Shout out Dexter McCluster.
Oh, he might be the insurance plan for.
He's the OG. Dexter McCluster was the OG back in the day.
He doesn't play anymore.
No.
Sorry. I was like, oh, yeah, he could be filling for Kamara with that role. I could see that. And I'm like, about 10 years late.
I think Dexter McCluster was one of the first guys that was actually used as like an RB wide receiver utility guy. So
he was the OG.
The Chiefs.
Yeah.
I remember that.
He called himself an offensive weapon.
Yeah. And look how well that worked out for him. So with Tampa Bay, I mixed in the pewter with the good old-fashioned sale. Off-season additions, I said re-signing Tom Brady, getting him out of retirement. That's a big one. They got rid of Bruce Arians. Well, not really. He's VP of making cocktails upstairs and making millions of dollars. Russell Gage
wears cool hats.
Yeah. He pretty much gets to live the South Florida life. All he's got to do is just go up there, be like, oh, show up. Oh, hey, how's Brady doing? Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll be over here making a cocktail for myself, just watching Tom Brady win me another Super Bowl. Oh, man. Bruce Arians, that guy's an interesting guy. Chris Godwin comes back, obviously coming off his ACL surgery. And then draft additions. Are you guys liking Cade Otton with Gronk out?
I think he certainly has a chance. From what I've seen, I wouldn't mind taking him. I don't know if it's late second and 12-team rookie drafts would be too much, but early third. I mean, you're taking darts at that point, and that's a pretty good dart to have, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm more so on this Jalen Darden, Tyler Johnson.
You're stealing my thunder. Jalen Darden's my guy.
Well, hey, Jalen Darden is like not even picked in best ball drafts, and neither is Tyler Johnson. Then again, I mean, who was it a couple years ago? Like Scotty Miller, like who? No one knew who the hell he was.
Scotty Miller had games, and I think Darden fits into that role a little bit more. Mm-hmm.
So Jalen Darden was my favorite player out of last year, and I was so disappointed because I was just like, Tom Brady knows what he's doing, because one of my favorite highlight reels was just, all the freaking touchdowns that he would get by just catching a screen pass and making the corner look absolutely silly for a 2-yard touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is perfect for this system. Brady's going to love him, stick him out in the slot. He's going to make everybody look silly, and then he barely touches the field. But
that's typical of an Arians offense, or an Arians team. I don't think he uses rookies very much. They usually sit, so be patient with him.
Yeah. Well, he's on a bunch of my teams because I loved him last year, and I haven't released him yet. But Rachaad White is somebody who I'm interested in with this offense. Gio Bernard is an injury, waiting to happen, and then, Rojo's gone. So you get somebody who can be maybe a pure catching running back out of this offense, give Leonard Fournette more of just like the running aspect of it.
How dare you? I mean, how dare you assume that Rachaad White is going to overtake Keyshawn Vaughn? How dare you?
I think Keyshawn Vaughn is packing his bags because he's
Keyshawn Vaughn was okay last year. I think Keyshawn Vaughn actually could be a value. I don't know what Rachaad White is, but I actually still do have quite a bit of shares of Keyshawn Vaughn I'm going to take with me to the grave. I don't have a lot of things I'll bury with me, but my Keyshawn Vaughn takes will follow me forever.
Yeah. They'll follow him right to New York. He'll be a part of the New York Giants next year.
Just like screw you. Like, dude, right. I'd walk off the set if anyone was actually, if I had.
If we had our own set of deucers.
Not only deucers, but if I mean, I don't know. I tried doing the show by myself once, and I can't ever make someone do that again.
So Russell Gage, I don't know. I thought he was going to get a nice value bump, but nobody wants to buy him. Like, I find it super interesting. I've tried to sell him for a 2 or even, and people are like, nah, I just don't. And I'm like, you got a guy tied to Tom Brady, and he recruited him there. He personally reached out to Russell Gage to call him and say, hey, you want to be part of Tampa? I can't believe that this guy's calling me.
To be fair, he did also recruit Ocho Cinco, so.
Yeah. Well, he also recruited Antonio Brown, so you can give him a little bit of credit. He knew what he was doing. Yeah, I agree with you, Steve. I think that Russell, for some reason, nobody likes Russell Gage. Like, it is the weirdest thing. Everybody just hates on Russell Gage because of zero reasoning. Last year, everybody hated on him, even though he had a great back end of the year. I don't get it. One thing that I noted about Russell Gage last year is that he had a pretty good win percentage against man coverage, and Tom Brady had the second best completion percentage against man coverage.
So I'm like, good correlation stats. That's good.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. It just screams a good slot receiver, even when Godwin's back.
Yeah, and Chris Godwin, he'll miss at least the first half of the season. So you have to imagine Gage, and then I mean maybe Darden. Darden sitting behind Antonio Brown last year as long as he could. I don't see how that's bad developmentally. You're learning from one of the best route runners in the game for the last 10, 20 years, whatever you. I mean, I can see Darden really taking that slot role, and he's probably him and Evans kind of go back and forth game to game. Like I think that's a possibility within the realm of outcomes.
I will say I do worry about, I obviously have Tampa Bay winning this division pretty handily, but I do have concerns about overinvestment in this offense. I think Bruce Arians is a heck of a coach. I don't know, I mean, we haven't really seen PFT talks about a lot. Like, I can't ever think of a time that Bruce Arians made a bad decision. Like, anyone that you second guess something Bruce Arians has ever done. So I do have concerns with some apathy from Tom Brady this season. This could be his final season. I just have concerns that maybe this offense isn't going to be operating as high as Tom Brady has done in the past.
I think you see it go back into almost more of a New England role where you're working on throwing to running backs and slot receivers a little bit more. I know that they meshed the system with what Arians and Brady have done, and that you kind of saw that, but you could see years of frustration because he's chucking it deep, and he's just like this, and then it's a turnover, and he goes, "That's just not my strength." And we'll see with what him and Mike Evans. I mean, I think they have pretty good chemistry now. I think they can kind of figure that out. It's always been a struggle to me to watch Leonard Fournette catch the ball because he falls down almost immediately every time he catches it. So it'd be nice to see a Rashad White that could actually do something with the ball after he catches it. We'll see what happens. I mean, he's probably going to have to figure out how to block if he wants to get on the field for passing downs. But I am just amazed that Leonard Fournette has gone from being the role he had in Jacksonville to what he's done in Tampa Bay, and I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't think a lot of people saw playoff Lenny coming. But here's something for you guys. You're talking about the deep ball percentages. He did have the most deep ball attempts last year. He had the most overall attempts, period. Red zone, deep ball, everything was just, Tom Brady was overdoing it. When I look at this offense, I look at it as not a dynasty offense, a redraft offense. If I'm in a redraft league, I am stacking a lot of these guys. I'm stacking the Gages. I'm stacking Brady. I'm stacking, even Fournette, because even like you said, even though he did fall down, in a PPR league, that's still a reception. That's still a point. I'll take it all day long.
I don't know, man. I just have concerns with Godwin being out, how effective that offense is going to be. I still think their defense is going to be good. I also think losing Sue on defense is going to make things a little bit harder for them too.
But they got Hicks. they got Akeem Hicks to fill that void. So, I mean, it's not really
You're talking to a Nebraska fan, so losing Sue is a lot.
Yeah, he should have won the Heisman that year, shouldn't he?
Thank you.
Yes. Single-handedly, game wrecker. Yeah, I agree with you on the redraft thing too. I think once Brady's done, this team is going to go into huge rebuild, and they probably won't see playoffs for 10 more years. But I mean, they've recruited aging guys that want to go out and win a championship, and
well,
who they have to replace them and come in.
When Brady retires, the Dolphins will probably end up trading like Tua to someone, and then Tua will do well because the Dolphins didn't do well. So,
well, then Tua will be in the completely wrong system because Bruce Arians actually likes people with big arms and not noodle arms.
Well, Arians is no longer there, man. It's all about
he's still making cocktails for Leftwich up there.
That's right.
Oh, well, this is another great episode, guys. I want to thank Steve for coming in. He will obviously be a reoccurring guest on here, if not a permanent staple if he wants to. But yeah, Steve, tell us what you're doing. Are you in the fantasy community as well? Are you a content creator?
I'm more of a poster and conversationalist about it. Not quite. I wouldn't call myself a professional, but I get professional advice from Justin all the time. So that's
okay.
We go back and forth. We certainly don't agree.
So it's about 50-50. I got you.
Mm-hmm. I would have put
we do
Twitter in.
We have done very well though in on the teams we manage. So
okay, nice. Well, I will be playing you guys for the first time this year, so that'll be interesting. Mm-hmm. You'll probably have a W over me because my team is weak sauce.
Yeah. Got to start somewhere. Year one of a rebuild.
Depends on if Watson's playing. My entire team hinges on Deshaun Watson, and then next year's a rebuild.
Fingers crossed. Zach Wilson has an amazing year, and I can make myself into a playoff team. If not, I got Stroud and I got Young coming on. But anyways, guys, it's been another great episode. And next week we're going to be doing the AFC South, or actually the AFC North. I'm sorry, we did the AFC South last week. Do the AFC North, and hopefully we're going to be bringing on a pretty cool Steelers guest from the Debbie Marketplace. So tune in, and as always,